1 year remains before the next scheduled Canadian federal parliamentary election. It must be held by October the 21st, 2019. According to the latest opinion polls, it seems likely that despite all of its problems, controversies, mistakes, and also probably at least partly incorrect policies, the current Liberal government of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will win another majority, because the latest polls conducted in or published in late September and the first week of October 2018 give the Liberals between 37 and 40% of the committed or announced voters support, while only between 31 and 34% support the official opposition or the largest opposition party, the Conservatives. And should this trend hold, and especially should the Canadian federal Liberals increase their number of seats, they received 184 seats out of 338 in the previous federal parliamentary elections that were held in October 2015. In that case, especially if they manage to win over 200 or over 210 seats, the continuance of the current Canadian Conservative leader, Andrew Scheer, elected in 2017, could even be potentially in danger. So Scheer, to some extent, is fighting for his political life, or at least for the assurance of his leadership. If the Liberals manage to get a majority, a narrow one, but the Conservatives manage to increase their number of seats, then Scheer's work probably will be secure, at least for another electoral term. And then there's, of course, the possibility of a hung parliament, a House of Commons with no overall majority party. And then the left-wing New Democrats would probably hold the balance of power. They would be quite unlikely to support a conservative minority government, at least for more than maybe 1 or 2 years. But they would probably be more likely to support a minority Liberal government as the lesser of two evils in their view. It will be interesting to see how the legalization of recreational cannabis smoking, a policy which will go into effect this Wednesday, if I remember correctly, will impact the Liberals' popularity and the Conservatives' popularity for religious, including Christian and moral reasons, and also practical ones, for example, law enforcement and crime. A significant number of Conservatives, especially at the grassroots level, continue to oppose this legalization. And then there are other more moderate Conservatives who say that the Liberal Party moved too quickly to legalize cannabis. And then, of course, there could be scandals uncovered by the vigilant Canadian media involving the Liberals and or the Conservatives. If both parties got bogged down in major scandals such as large-scale bribery, corruption, falsification of documents, and so forth, then theoretically the New Democrats could rise even to 25% of the popular vote in the next federal parliamentary elections, and then they could truly be the so-called kingmakers, because then they would receive a significant increase in their share of the seats, and especially if neither one of the two main parties even was able to get 35% of the popular vote, then Canada might for the first time in decades, enter into a formal coalition government, or at least into a so-called supply and confidence agreement, whereby at least one opposition party would support the government on questions of parliamentary confidence and of the budget. So it will be interesting to see. Maybe I will monitor the polling data now on a monthly basis. So in that case, the second installment of these videos, I already filmed one video and was able to upload it in French. The next installments would be in November of this year, then in December, and then after that in January 2019, then in February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and at last an analysis, post-election analysis of the results, and then pre-election predictions shortly before the election day. A Canadian political website, calculatedpolitics.com, made the following calculation of potential seats, or projection of potential seats, updated on last updated on September the 3rd, 2019. Maybe this was a so-called poll of polls, or an average of the recent opinion polls. The Liberals then had 38.2% support, which would, according to this website, hypothetically give them 177 seats out of 338. In other words, a 16-seat majority, including the Speaker. The Conservatives, with 34.5% of the vote, would rise to 125 seats, but still fall 52 seats short of even equaling the Liberals, and 53 seats short of beating them. The New Democrats, with 16.7% of the vote, would get 35 seats. The Bloc Québécois, which only runs candidates in Quebec whose eventual independence is its main goal, would only receive 2.9% of the vote and no seats. The Greens would receive 6.2% of the vote and then receive one seat, probably that of their leader Elizabeth May of British Columbia. The other parties would get 1.5% of the vote and win no seats. It will be interesting to see, especially in Quebec, if the People's Party of Canada, a breakaway party, split from the Conservative Party, its Quebec wing, and currently led by Maxime Bernier, who ran a close second to Andrew Scheer in the 2017 Conservative leadership election in Canada, how they will fare. Will they be able to win at least a few seats in Quebec and perhaps one or two elsewhere? So we'll monitor the situation. Have a nice and blessed remainder of October.